Well, good morning. I trust that things are going well for you as we enter into our third day of our journey into this new normal, being the church in changing times. Today, our reading came from the First Timothy chapter 1, verses 12 through 17. I want to tell you a little story about Lady. Lady was an old black Labrador retriever. She was getting pretty old for a dog. She'd been around a very long time. Our friends who had a Lady was told the story about how they got Lady as a puppy and began to raise her and watched her go through those awkward periods where she was more legs than she was dog, where coordination and agility were merely a hope that she eventually grew into. For Lady, her days of frolicking in the grass and chasing the tennis ball was long since past. Her specialty now was just lying around on the floor. Now, when we were introduced to her and she was in her advanced years, she had a different role than she had had when she was a young pup. You see, the chew toys that used to be her fascination had now been replaced by an active 2-year-old toddler with more energy than one could even try to measure. The day that I met Lady, I was fascinated by what I saw. I watched as she lay on the floor while that toddler climbed on her back, pulled on her ears, yanked her tail, and used her as a pillow while downing the contents of her baby bottle. And during all this time, there was no reaction on the part of that dog. She was the perfect example of patience. That dog was unfazed by whatever the child did. As we visited with our friends, I remarked at how amazing Lady was and her amazing patience. Our friend said, "She's the best babysitter we could ever have." Well, to be honest, while I appreciated what they were saying, I didn't fully understand the range and scope of their comment until we prepared to end our visit. You see, our friends lived out in the country on a highway that was an extremely busy road. Huge transfer trucks were constantly passing their home at a very rapid rate of speed. This was further complicated by the fact that their little home was not far from the road. As we walked out of the house, Lady slowly made her way down the steps, stopping at each level as though every step required a whole new decision-making process. And finally, we all made it out, toddler included. As we stood there in the driveway saying our goodbyes, suddenly I was totally taken by surprise. Lady let out a mighty, robust bark that would almost curl your hair. And that old dog, for whom moments earlier a set of steps seemed almost too great a mountain to climb, sprang into action and was off like a shot. You see, the ever-ready toddler had headed toward the highway at a full gallop while we were engaged in our conversation. Lady caught up with the child in no time, grabbed her by the diaper and with her mouth and pulled that child back to her parents. That's when I understood what they meant by the babysitter comment. As odd as it may sound, Lady came to my mind as I read this passage. Patient doesn't mean inactive. That certainly speaks to the Apostle Paul. He was not always patient. It grew on him. Listen to what he said in verse 16. I received mercy, that Christ might display the utmost patience, making me an example. Paul learned to rely upon and trust God in all he did in his life. Have you experienced the mercy of Jesus to the point that you can rely on him and trust him with your whole life? Consider the following questions. In what ways have you experienced the mercy of Jesus in your life? Question 2. Would you describe yourself as an example of patience for those who come to the faith? Question 3. What do you need to change in your life to trust in Jesus the way that Paul did? Once again, I hope you'll take some time and look at these questions, journal the answers, so that you can go back and reflect upon them as we continue down the path that we are traveling. Hope you have a good day in this new normal, being the church in changing times. Amen. Now go in peace.